so you don't have to.
Is DEI over? More and more companies, from Walmart to the Golden Arches, they are rolling back the diversity initiatives that were created after George Floyd's protests in 2020. DEI has become this trendy word for conservatives to blame pretty much anything on, from the border to the fires in California. But it's not just corporate America that is re-examining all of this. We're now learning that the FBI shut down its DEI office last month, just as the Trump administration comes to power. That part probably should not be a surprise, because that's where it's going to start. Yeah. The Trump folks, they want to go straight to the government, shut down all those DEI offices. In the corporate world, there's some reconsideration of this. There's some renaming of it. But this is a real trend that's happening.
Yeah, we're seeing it. And it's pretty disturbing, in my opinion, when you look at someone and you hear, and I heard just the other day, so many random things, but you think about Ketanji Jackson, our justice, and I think of this woman and how hard she worked, and they said she was a DEI justice. And I thought to myself, or like when you look at Kamala Harris, or people who have went to Harvard and Yale and have the same exact resume as their white counterpart, their white male counterpart. DEI is so trendy, and when it comes from someone from a conservative side and they label that, it becomes just this truth. I often ask my question when I look at Pete Hegseth. I wonder if they say he's a DEI candidate. Would that be unfair to say? I don't know why we can't use. Why we can't use the same words, because I know I'm gonna let you get to it, but why can't we use the same words that they use on us? Earlier you said that liberals are gonna have to start saying that quiet part out loud. I think it's the same energy in the match, because it's just not true, and we need to battle those facts.
And it comes from the United States Supreme Court, the decision last year about the Harvard admissions. And they just said it violated the 14th Amendment. And it really had to do with, I think, Asian students who were being excluded from going to Harvard because there were too many Asian students. Their grades were very high. And so that's where this all comes from. Corporate America is basically following, well, if they did it to Harvard, don't worry, I can't even spell Harvard. So I'm not from Harvard. If they're going to rule there, the next stop is corporations. You're only hiring this person because of the DEI.
That's just not true.
I read this really interesting.
That's how I'm following the law. The law part I know, and that's the law, and that's the way it's going.
When it comes to college admissions, there's a very interesting piece in the Wall Street Journal in the opinion section. It says, you blame DEI for hurting your career, now what? For people who pin their failures on diversity, corporate America's DEI retreat removes a barrier, or maybe an excuse. And in the piece, they talk to a bunch of people who called in saying DEI is why I didn't get promoted. And they also talked to a lot of hiring managers who said that sometimes those hiring managers don't want to tell the white guy that they just weren't likable. And that they say, well, we had this woman, we had to give them the job instead. I mean, is this an excuse?
Yes.
And are we just coddling people who don't want to take accountability for their own career stalling, perhaps?
Listen, as Republicans tend to do, they overreach and cast a very wide net, and so everything becomes DEI, and that's absurd. That is absurd. But I will say there was a case last year in March of 2024, Duval versus Novant Health, and what David Duval claimed was he was a white man and he was fired by the hospital so that they could promote a black woman. And several other white people lost their jobs at the same time for DEI hires, okay? He won that case, not because of Trump's Supreme Court, but because a jury agreed. A jury agreed that there was some reverse discrimination here.
Sure.
It is worthy of looking at and scrutinizing where this policy is getting it wrong and where it's getting it right. I think the good news is it is so embedded in corporate culture. Despite these people announcing they're going to retreat from it, it's very embedded in corporate culture. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I just don't think you're going to hear about it as much as
I think that's a very valid point about just scrutinizing. I mean, look, it's fine to take a look at it and see, is it really achieving the goals that it's supposed to be achieving?
But I feel like a lot of these corporations are eliminating these programs without any say-so on what they plan to do instead. And a lot of them, let's be honest, they're doing it out of fear of losing business from customers who use DE&I as a substitute for the N-word. So these are people that they're just wanting to, oh, don't be mad at us. We're doing the cool thing. They're just following the trends the same as they were when they posted the black checks back when all the George Floyd stuff happened in the first place. And we're going to listen to you, and we're going to start our program. And then the moment that wave went away, they got rid of that stuff. So it's just doing whatever's good for business at the end of the day.
There are activists who are actually going to corporate boards and trying to push this stuff. So they're afraid, in a way, of this coming to their boards as well. Everyone, stay with me. Coming up next, the story that's got everyone's talking. The FDA is now banning